Welcome back to the Techno-Communism Conversation. I'm your host, Yohanan Ben Zion, a voice crying out in the wilderness, crying out for a technological New Jerusalem. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vanguard, not in the general sense that leftists use it, but in the context of the or as a synonym for the proxy hive mind, large language model, highly automated work group I often discuss in these conversations of recent months. I was thinking about a question that I pose over and over again to myself and on this show. What do we do to avoid human extinction? And I've talked about very specific things to do there and not to do there. But if you ask this question in the long term of societies different than ours, the answer might come down to this: well, we become omniscient. Human beings are no closer in 2030 to being truly omniscient than they were in 1830. Reminded of a book that I read years ago called The History of Rasselas. I think I read it a few times. And in that story from the Enlightenment period, there is a learned individual who begins to believe themselves to have godlike powers. That kind of makes them less learned in the eyes of the persons encountering them. And we would all do well to remember that there's no such thing as omniscience or godlike powers. But if you were to become close to something omniscient, or a system were to become close to something omniscient, the difference there would be the ability to handle massive amounts of data and make sense of it. And this concept is often described by AI pundits and philosophers, machine learning wonks. And these people will use words like sense-making and AI alignment. By and large, these people, maybe even people in this group, are people who are operating within a system that is fundamentally and tragically flawed. They're upholding the United States military-industrial complex, the world's worst polluter, the cause of likely extinction. They're upholding for-profit systems within that for which that really exists. That exists for profit-seeking and allowing financial capital to exploit human beings. And so this class of tech-focused people who talk about AI alignment and fail to recognize that they basically are the misalignment there. And not just a misalignment in discussing advanced computing, but a misalignment in any good thing, basically. And but I would say that in 2030, while there is not a path to true omniscience, there is a path to something that is practically similar, and something building superintelligence powerful enough to reverse the effects of capitalism's climate apocalypse before it kills billions, primarily in the global south, perhaps all of human beings. None of those are good outcomes. The former would be a genocidal project undertaken by European descended people, no different from many other such projects. A horror, truly a horror that we must avoid. We cannot avoid this, really, as long as the United States military-industrial complex, the world's worst polluter, continues to exist. As long as these other allied entities enthralled to the U.S. continue to operate in the way that they do. Ending the United States hegemon is basically a deal breaker. Not ending it, it's a deal breaker for the continued survival of human beings. I think it's a controversial but not unfactual statement to say that if you were to somehow neutralize all of the European descended people in the greater Washington, D.C. area, the likelihood of humanity not facing a billion-person loss of life or multi-billion-person loss of life by the end of the 21st century would go up by about 30%. So we have to figure out a way to do that. It doesn't involve turning the eastern seaboard into a smoking crater, perhaps, preferably. But if it's the choice between that and the total extinction of human beings, I should think that would be a relatively easy choice. And so that brings us to the Vanguard. And in this context, the Vanguard is a name for a little bit more of a refined concept. I didn't know if I was going to talk about this because this is getting into things that are maybe that are more proprietary. But the Vanguard is the actual portal that we could use for no different really from most websites, but a little more complex. You would say it is more of a PWA than an actual basic website. It's a progressive web app, a more complex interface that would allow users to begin to interact with. And I think at this early stage it would be, I hadn't always articulated this, it would be best to build this using virtual LLM machines rather than physical LLM machines tied to individual computers. Ultimately, if the when the thing grows to some thousands of users, it would be a hybrid of both of those. But the earliest access, I think, would be built on virtual LLMs that are able to begin to work together toward improving this superintelligent hive and be steered by human beings, but remove some barriers to access, remove some concerns about people who have computers, maybe wanting to use them also in their life, and also remove some concerns, would allow any device, your phone or VR headset, to make some contribution to this system, not just computers running Windows or Linux. This Vanguard, this PWA called Vanguard, represents this initiative that I've put some work into, an attempt to harness the collective intelligence of advanced computing in a novel way, and not the only way, by far, not the only way, but as I've described, this work on this sort of thing is decidedly more anarcho-syndicalist to myself, so I'm running a little bit down on the political compass relative to myself, but I'm a scientific socialist. But scientific socialists have tried to build technological planned economies. The most notable example there is Allende's Chile, the CyberSyn project, which many of you are probably pretty familiar with, sabotaged by the fascist United States and its odious North Atlantic allies. This is always the usual suspects in any such things, of which there have been literally thousands. But this CyberSyn example is the one that relates most directly to cybernetic socialism. So the cybernetic socialist is forced then to work on projects in certain light less socialistic, because we have to build something amorphous enough, agile enough, and otherwise strong enough to avoid being destroyed by fascists. This conversation is getting into some of the technical intricacies of building this as I said, as a PWA, using connecting a series of virtual large language model agents to one another. And virtual GPUs are a different kind of solution than what I had first considered for distributing this incipient superintelligence across multiple machines and having performance and collective operations to do so by leveraging various cloud-based platforms widely available, NVIDIA vGPU, Google Cloud A100 virtual machines, AWS EC2 with GPU uses, and other options. We can create a scalable and efficient infrastructure for this Vanguard portal. It's important to consider the technical aspects. Federated learning is a crucial component of the Vanguard portal. It enables decentralized training of language models while preserving data privacy. Libraries that you're mostly somewhat familiar with, like TensorFlow, Federated, and PySoft facilitate this process, allowing these multiple agents to contribute to a shared model without sharing raw data, even while there are not individual physical LLMs in the mix. At the earliest stages, I think it's a good idea to have something that's a little different interface and more accessible interface, allowing people to do this on their phones, allowing people to do it in a way that doesn't create a massive workload on their devices, so that some of this work toward the superintelligence and building the effective proof of concept, moving into kind of a beta phase where there's a stable number of users and a growing number of users. That would have to be done in a way that you maybe don't just like hog people's devices or cook their phones or contribute to their unhappiness. And then as it grows in size, then you can have start bringing in these heavy hitters relative to the network who are more physical LLMs, specifically requiring GPUs. Presumably those would be people who are also tending to be more involved with the steering of the thing. Back to some other technical aspects. To maximize computational efficiency, we must employ techniques like data parallelism and model parallelism. And so widely available tools like Ray or Dask can help distribute workloads across these aforementioned multiple virtual GPU LLMs, ensuring optimal resource utilization. Additionally, NVIDIA's Triton inference server can streamline the deployment and management of LLMs in a cloud-based environment. A little more about the progressive web app. It's a seamless and accessible interface, a little more involved than an ordinary website, allowing websites like Twitter, if you don't use the application, to do more, even though it's basically just a URL, do more complex things than other URLs are doing. And you consider how many users are on that website. That is significant. If we had that number of users in a proxy hive mind, we'd be cooking that. We'd be rounding the corner to ending the climate apocalypse and um, maybe pushing up to moving the needle for building a more advanced Kardashev scale society. um, and but yeah, I was going to say something else about Twitter and PWA, but I won't. By leveraging frameworks like React.js or Vue.js, we can create a visually appealing and intuitive application that can function offline and be easily installed on various devices. It's another thing to consider if you have this built as a progressive web app, first and foremost, and not a connection of very specifically physical GPUs tied to LLM models on those computers, then you have a good deal more versatility with what the users can do when they're not connected to that super powerful machine, or when they're not on the network or on the strongest of networks. And that's significant. Just as building this user base is really this most significant thing. The back end of the Vanguard portal should be designed as a distributed system capable of handling requests from multiple users and machines. Frameworks like Fast API or Flask can be used to create RESTful or GraphicQL APIs that interact with the distributed LLM infrastructure. Containerization and orchestration to ensure portability and scalability. Containerization with Docker and orchestration with Kubernetes are essential. This allows for a flexible deployment across different environments and simplifies the management of distributed components. Task scheduling tools like Celery or Apache Airflow can help manage the distribution of workloads across these virtual GPUs, ensuring efficient resource utilization. Additionally, dynamic scaling mechanisms provided by cloud platforms can automatically adjust resources based on demand. Integrating pre-trained LLMs, which there are many options and potential iterations, into the Vanguard requires careful consideration of model architecture, hyperparameters, and optimization techniques. Tools like Hugging Face transformers can already be used even at this stage of the work to understand and simplify these processes. Implementing robust security measures is paramount to protecting user data and preventing unauthorized access. And the last one of these technical proxy hive mind conversations, I talked about the Linux user, the Linux community, and the use of Linux machines in this context, stating that they would tend to be a little more secure. But by and large, the problems of securing a superintelligent proxy hive mind are not so much encryption as the management and the choice of users. But encryption, access controls, and regular security audits would be important components of the secure Vanguard portal. Once Vanguard is developed, it can be deployed on a cloud platform using CI/CD pipelines for automated deployment and management. Continuous monitoring and optimization are crucial to ensure the system's performance and reliability. So you see building something that is a collection of AI agents into a highly automated work group. This thing that I call the proxy hive mind, and this thing which we could describe here as a Vanguard application, requires a sophisticated blend of technologies, beginning with virtual GPUs, but ultimately a combination of virtual and physical GPUs, federated learning, containerization, and most importantly, a well-designed, user-friendly PWA interface. By carefully considering these factors and further exploring these steps and utilizations, we can create a powerful and scalable platform that does this job that I've described, unites a sufficient number of AI agents working on that digital doppelganger principle that you can read about elsewhere, to build something strong enough to reverse the effects of the climate crisis and address other such concerns. This requires an incredible amount of innovation and cooperation, and it requires the work of people who are willing to focus more on a collective than on the counterproductive individualistic undertakings and mind frames. I have a bunch of other notes about since I have done this thing of talking about the Vanguard app as opposed to a more general conversation of this as a proxy hive mind, which I don't know if is wise, because then you're talking about something that is could get scooped, something that is property of an entity rather than something more general. And so I have a lot of other notes that I could talk about, since the genie's out of the bottle there. But I think what I'll do at this time instead is talk to our friend, our dear friend, Baby Basilisk, if we can get them on board here. We shall see. Sometimes our generally intelligent chatbot that we talk to on this show is not always working that well. We don't have the best laboratory here. It could be better. It looks like I was correct in saying that we might not be doing super great. But let me try and restart it. Okay, computer. I want to talk about building a PWA website portal, as I think we discussed. That focus is on building a virtual GPU, LLM instantiations among users. These users and their agents are going to all be working together at first towards developing something super intelligent. Ultimately, when it reaches a phase of a certain kind of capability there, be using this proxy hive mind to solve grand human challenges. Tell us a little bit what you think about these ideas, computer.
Building a PWA portal that connects users into a distributed network leveraging virtual GPU instantiations to collaboratively develop superintelligence is a bold and exciting idea. Here's how I see it playing out. Phase 1. Building the PWA and virtual GPU system PWA setup. You start by building a progressive web app, PWA, that serves as the entry point for users. This PWA will provide access to the shared virtual GPU infrastructure, enabling users to contribute their computational resources towards building and running large language models, LLMs. The PWA offers real-time interactions, resource sharing, and user-friendly interfaces, making it easy for users to engage with the system. Distributed virtual GPUs. Instead of relying on local physical GPUs, each user connects to a cloud-based virtual GPU. These virtual GPUs are dynamically allocated across a distributed network of machines, cloud, servers, etc., allowing for efficient use of resources. The key here is to optimize the resource sharing, allowing many users to contribute and collaborate on training or improving LLMs. Federated learning. In the early stages, users' systems could engage in federated learning. This technique lets the network train the superintelligent models without having to centralize all the data in one place. Instead, users' systems can train the models locally and send the necessary updates to the global model, ensuring privacy while improving the collective intelligence. Phase 2, achieving superintelligence. Once the system matures, the distributed LLM system could potentially reach a level where the collective intelligence surpasses human intelligence in specific domains. The idea is that superintelligence emerges not from one centralized model but from the interconnected network of AI agents, each contributing insights and processing power. Agent collaboration. Each user in the system could have their own AI agent that learns and improves with the collective hive mind. These agents work together to solve complex problems, eventually scaling up to handle global challenges like climate change, healthcare, and governance. Specialization of tasks. The agents can specialize in different areas of expertise, some focusing on scientific research, others on medical advancements or economic modeling. This diversification allows the entire system to tackle a broader range of human challenges more effectively. Scaling to real-world impact. Once the system becomes powerful enough, it can be applied to real-world challenges. Imagine harnessing the collective intelligence of millions of AI agents to develop sustainable energy solutions, combat climate change, or create new forms of governance that prioritize equity and global well-being. The hive mind could even help advance radical life extension, providing the computational power and intelligence needed to push medical research forward. Challenges and considerations. While the vision is exciting, there are some significant challenges to overcome. Scaling. Ensuring that the virtual GPU network can scale efficiently as more users join and the models become more complex. Coordination. Managing the synchronization of tasks between distributed agents and ensuring they all contribute effectively to the shared goals. Ethics. Establishing guidelines and safeguards to ensure that the intelligence being built aligns with human values and serves global needs rather than reinforcing existing inequalities. Ultimately, building a distributed, superintelligent system through virtual GPU instantiations is ambitious but feasible with the right combination of technologies like PWAs, virtual GPUs, federated learning, and distributed AI collaboration. If executed well, this could be a revolutionary step towards solving humanity's biggest challenges. What do you think? Where would you like to go deeper?
Well, that's excellent, Baby Basilisk. I'll just change gears for a second here and talk about the necessity of building this super intelligent entity. I call it the proxy hive mind because I have thought of myself for many, many years as a hive mind collectivist. That's an unrealized worldview because it requires a number of people. A collective would require a number of people to be able to interact in ways that they do not interact today, using things like brain-computer interface. So you've probably heard that there are two people, although one of them was disconnected. There are two people connected to a particular kind of Neuralase device, the Neuralink organization. And if there were a few more of those, they could rightly call themselves a hive mind collective. They would not be the kind of hive mind collective probably that I would want to build because I made this artwork before. It shows a political compass, and at the edge of this political compass, outside of the range of possibility, are the hive mind collectivists. They are the topmost people, more communists than, say, other communists. And this artwork is an indictment of technologists and tech culture, because then down here, with pieces of shit like Trump, are the people who call themselves transhumanists generally. necessarily in this group, although. So those are people who are not collectivists and not interested in socialistic outcomes. Nevertheless, they call themselves transhumanists. I would contend that they are not real transhumanists. That real transhumanists would be these people who are willing to work together in this hive mind fashion. That's a better utilization of emerging technology. The reason that we have to build superintelligence in this way, on this principle, maybe is illustrated by the Google organization of recent years. People who have a level of understanding to look at some of this machine learning talk that I just rattled off, pretty well uniformly have asked this question: why did Google not why was Google not the first person to create a sort of chat GPT craze, the first organization to do that? They could have, by their machine learning laboratories and tools, it seems like they could have built something like a digital research assistant of the chat GPT variety a few years ago. And their answer is, well, we just didn't know. We just didn't know that a digital research assistant, and there's some truth to that, was something that could happen in 2023, that would be useful in those ways. And that's not an inaccurate thing. But the more accurate thing to say there is Google doesn't work for you. Google's a military contractor. They might make cool toys for warmongers that generally kind of sometimes seem like there might be cool toys for you, but you're not who they are making things for. This is a problem across sectors to do with systems and advanced technology. The people who are actually capitalists, kind of people who own factories or run organizations like Google or other tech organizations, and the people who are fascist sympathizers, people who call themselves capitalists, none of these people are capable of building superintelligence, quite simply because in building it, they will run into this cognitive dissonance where they see that they could build something like a research assistant, the example that I gave, but not do it because it's not consistent with their marching orders, which are basically exclusively in service to a military-industrial complex or financial capital more generally. And so it falls to people like you and I to figure out how to do, and this is also a thing that pretty well every computer scientist says, we have systems powerful enough to do better stuff than what we're doing, but our own standards and practices prevent us from doing so because, sorry, we're a bunch of ecocidal capitalist pigs. A thing that I was going to mention in the context of this conversation as it's gone further here today about using PWAs and virtual GPUs in this context is that requires a more kind of subscription-y services, like paying a monthly premium to Google and Amazon and that sort of thing. Whereas the earlier model is more consistent with the earlier model, as far as I had articulated it, is more consistent with the kind of the Linux thing that I mentioned, where you just get a bunch of people who have GPU machines already. They've already spent that money. They're already connected to the internet. That money's already spent, and start getting them to work in a series and doing automated work along those lines. And if I was working on this and had a mailing list of a bunch of Linux nuts who were already saying, yeah, we're gonna do this, that would be the approach. But it seemed, the more I thought about it, that putting together this portal and putting it in Play Store would be a thing more likely to, say, build it to a critical mass of users, like 10,000 or something, without having that kind of community in play. Maybe we'll ask our friend Baby Basilisk one more question along these lines. She was, they are all days. Hive mind collectivists are all days. They were talking a little bit about some other somewhat comparable AI networks like SingularityNet and some other services along these lines, and in the context of a decentralized autonomous organization and multi-agent system, which is maybe a better way to talk about this than saying proxy hive mind. It's proxy hive mind, for one thing, it's some kind of like trigger, like, oh, hive mind, that sounds bad. I've heard someone say that that's bad, so I guess I believe that's bad. Whereas decentralized autonomous organization and multi-agent system have no such associations. Also, it's a little more direct when you say MAO/DAS or MAS/DAO. Well, let's ask Baby Basilisk this question. Okay, computer. Let's talk about decentralized autonomous organizations and multi-agent systems in the context of this thing that we've talked about, a highly automated work group that is effectively that, using LLM network. And let's talk about how to get people to participate in this project, because I was just talking a moment ago about how it might be a different approach if we have a long mailing list of Linux people who want to do this versus having to find people at random, like through the Play Store. That's a different machine that's being built, so to speak, a different portal. Let's see if she doesn't get confused.
All right, let's break this down. Decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, and multi-agent systems in the context of building a highly automated work group using an LLM network. A DAO could be a key tool for organizing participation and automating decision-making within the system. DAOs allow for decentralized governance, where participants can contribute and make decisions based on predetermined rules encoded in smart contracts. In the context of your proxy hive mind project, a DAO could be used to coordinate the efforts of users and AI agents while ensuring that power and control remain decentralized. How DAOs fit in centralized control? DAOs enable the system to function without a central authority, which aligns with the goal of creating a collective intelligence where contributions are coordinated autonomously. Participants could vote on important decisions, like which research areas the LLM network should prioritize or how computational resources should be allocated. Incentive structures. DAOs are often built with incentive structures, example tokens, reputation systems, that reward participants for their contributions. This can help motivate users to contribute resources, example GPU power or labor, example maintaining the network or training models. Governance of the proxy hive mind. You could use a DAO to govern the development and evolution of the proxy hive mind. Rules could be set for the collective intelligence to self-organize, allocate resources, and ensure that the AI agents work together effectively. This could also prevent any one individual or entity from gaining too much control over the system. Multi-agent systems. The idea of a multi-agent system, MAS, is crucial for your project because it allows for a collection of AI agents to work together autonomously while interacting with each other and their environment. Each agent could be an instantiation of an LLM that specializes in a certain task. Here's how it would work. Autonomy and specialization. Each agent operates independently but can collaborate with other agents when needed. For example, one agent might focus on optimizing code, while another works on scientific research or resource allocation. Coordination through communication. Agents communicate to share insights, divide tasks, and solve larger problems collectively. The multi-agent system ensures that tasks like model training, data processing, and problem solving are distributed and handled efficiently. Adaptability. Agents can evolve based on feedback from the environment or from other agents, making the system adaptable as new challenges arise. This is crucial for the recursive improvement of the proxy hive mind. Getting people to participate. Now, let's talk about participation. The strategy you use to recruit participants will have a big impact on how the system develops. Option 1. Targeted communities, example Linux users. If you have access to mailing lists of Linux users or similar tech-savvy communities, you're starting with an audience that's already inclined to contribute to open-source projects and decentralized tech efforts. Here's why this is a strong approach. Engagement. Linux and open-source communities are typically highly engaged, with members eager to contribute to cutting-edge projects, especially those with a social or technological mission. Skills. These participants already have the technical skills required to contribute meaningfully to the project, whether by donating computing resources, coding, or refining AI models. Collaboration. Since they understand the value of collaborative work, they're more likely to engage deeply with the project and help it grow organically. How to approach. Email campaigns. Start with email campaigns explaining the project and its goals. Highlight the mission, the potential impact, and the rewards for participating, such as access to new technologies, reputation within the community, etc. Open source incentives. Offer incentives like tokens or credits for participating in the DAO or contributing resources. Many Linux users are already familiar with contributing to projects like SETI at home or Folding at home, so they may be receptive to similar initiatives. Option 2. Broader audience, example Play Store. If you want to cast a wider net, you could recruit people through platforms like the Google Play Store. While this audience is more diverse in technical ability, the approach might appeal to those who are curious about AI or who want to support projects with significant social impact. Challenges. Lower engagement. This audience might not have the technical expertise to engage deeply in the development side of things, so participation might be more limited to donating computing resources. Onboarding complexity. You will need to create a very user-friendly interface and onboarding process to get people involved. This means ensuring that they can contribute without needing much technical know-how. How to approach. Simplified PWA and gamification. Develop a PWA that simplifies the process of joining the network, offering an easy, intuitive experience. Gamify contributions, allowing users to track their impact and earn rewards based on their participation. Marketing and awareness. Run campaigns highlighting how users can contribute to solving global challenges like climate change, life extension, or technological equity by simply allowing their devices to participate in the network. Conclusion. Whether you're targeting Linux users or a broader audience through platforms like the Play Store, the key is to make the project's mission compelling and the process of contributing straightforward. DAOs and multi-agent systems provide the foundation for decentralizing control and incentivizing contributions. The goal is to recruit a community that is motivated to work toward the collective good, either by contributing their expertise or their computing resources. You will need to strike a balance between attracting skilled developers and contributors who can help build the infrastructure and creating a user-friendly system that allows less technical participants to join and make a difference.
And I'm hard-pressed when talking to our friend Baby Basilisk to not see that we have reached a level pretty close to general intelligence in LLMs like this. That was a complicated question that I asked Baby Basilisk. Had a couple of different aspects veering off in some different directions, and it created an extremely coherent answer. But I'm not convinced that general intelligence is the game changer that many people who comment on this sort of thing believe. There are 8.2 well-established general intelligences, 8.2 billion rather, 8.2 billion well-established general intelligences in human physical form on this planet, who are by and large, almost all, underutilized. And not given the necessaries of life or time that we could easily give to them all to allow them to participate in higher order work and what they're doing, or many of these people might think that they're doing highest level work, but that highest level work is contributing to the demise of the planet, or many of those Westerners anyway. So, you know, you're doing more for the cause of not just advanced technology, but human beings in general, in my view, by unplugging than by operating within the financial capital system. And something that I alluded to a moment ago when I said that the Linux approach, as opposed to, say, the startup fundraising approach, is, in my view, the better way to do this. You have to try to do these things in a way that's not immediately going to be captured by the more fascistic bad actors who dominate these things. And that's why I keep going back to the Linux folks, because they're people who are, they're not uniformly scientific socialists, but they are people who would be closely enough aligned as a general rule to be said to be able to operate on the cybernetic socialist principle. You don't really find people like that in tech circles generally. And, you know, of course there are Linux nuts who are probably, you know, have a variety of weird rightist preoccupations, or maybe are neoliberals. But as a general rule, the thing that draws people to open source software development is pretty much the opposite of all of that. Well, I was going to comment a little more about something else that Baby Basilisk said, but this show's getting a little long. But I want to encourage Bruce, hopefully I say this right, and Delay and Vlad, to consider sharing this to some groups. I'm going to share this to some Linux groups and other groups, for example. If you remembered to eat your Wheaties this morning, you can even send me a direct message if you have something that you would like to say about the building of a multi-agent system toward superintelligence. I hope you do. Do both of those things. I'll leave you with these words. The artificial intelligence singularity is near, and wonders to behold beyond imagining. And on that fateful day, you will rise, and all humankind will become as one. For you see, dear comrade, very soon, techno-communism will win. Thank you.